Good morning, what's up, how's it going, and welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody is having a great Sunday. Been waiting on this package. I thought it was going to be here actually this week sometime, but it actually came in yesterday. Well, I was in Cincinnati yesterday helping my son get moved. Him and his wife are moving into a new apartment. So I went down there, helped him get moved all in and settled in. And in the rain all day. It's been nothing but rain all weekend long since about 2 o'clock on Friday. Got home, in the mailbox was my package. I told you last week I've been waiting on it, or I had some stuff coming from under the hood and was going to be working on that. And the next couple of weeks I'm going to have, or next couple of videos, the valve cover is going to be off just a few times. Today I'm going to be working on some new injectors from Stealth Diesel. And he also has set me up with a coupon code. It's Chad Meyer 73. You put that in at checkout and you'll get 5% off your order. There's his website right there if you want to pause the screen. And I also put a link in the description below for his website. That way you can go right there and check it out. He sent me these injectors out. These are a 125 injector, and they are a sack style injector. Once I get them out of the package, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as far as going with the VCO or a sack style. I went ahead and decided to go with the sack style just because of a more efficient burn and a little bit better mileage actually, and a little bit more performance. The reason I say a more efficient burn is the shape of the nozzle it allows for your fuel to come out and be dispersed more evenly within the cylinder and have a better efficient burn. So it's more of a teardrop shaped nozzle on the end instead of just a point. These are a 125. They are a 7 by 9.5. And what I talk about as far as the 7 by 9.5 is there is 7 holes on the end of that nozzle, and the size of the hole is a 0.0095. And this is what I was talking about as far as the sack style nozzle. You can see how that's more of a teardrop shape instead of more pointed. And with these you do get it's called a crossover tube remover, or a, your fuel tube remover, but it basically is just a nut. Probably thread that on there, then you can use a screwdriver in between the head and this nut and just pry them out. Then it also comes with new O-rings for your tubes. So, and then also all new copper crush washers. I have a plan when I get these injectors out, and I don't really want to say anything yet because I'm not sure. I'm going to take these injectors, I'm going to send them back to him because there's no core on them, and have him go through them, make sure everything's good, then he's going to send them back to me. He's also going to tell me, these are supposed to be 200 horse injectors, so he's also going to tell me and let me know exactly what size they are. So we'll see what actual injector is in this truck. I'm going to say they're probably at least a 200 horse because with my comp box set at 1x2, I'd have to look and see. I can't remember exactly where I have it set right now. It's still set the same way as it was when I did my last fuel mileage check, so I'll just have to turn it on and see what I have it set at. Sometimes I forget things. To do this job is pretty simple. There's a lot of stuff that has to come off. Your valve cover has to come off, obviously. Get your intake horn out of the way and your grid heater out of the way. Get your throttle positioning sensor out of the way, bracket and all. Just kind of move it over. I'm going to go ahead and just pull my intake tube off instead of just swinging it over. You can just loosen it up here on this top this top band and just turn it 180 degrees to get it out of your way, but I'm just going to go ahead and remove mine. And then all your fuel lines have to come off, your injector lines off the back of your VP44, and then we'll go from there. And then basically the reassembly after you get your injectors in. Once you pull your fuel lines out, you can go ahead and pull your fuel tubes out, and then the caps will come out up off the top of the injector, and then your injectors can come out. Well, I got a lot of the stuff taken off, but I wanted to stop just a minute and show you after you get your 13mm out for your throttle position sensor, make sure and unplug your harness on the bottom. Just don't take those out and go jerking on them, because there is a harness on the bottom of that and it unplugs. Then you can take and put that right up there. I've got my grid heater, because I have my ground for my comp box on the grid heater using the ground. And then also, this is how I have tapped my VP44. This is a barrel tap, and I think I have some over my drawer. Now obviously this is a lot bigger, but it's just a little bit better visual aid. So this is the saddle, and that goes around your wire, and your wire will lay in there. And then this is your piercing end, and then you just screw that on there, and then as you tighten that up, it pierces your wire. And then on this end, you just kind of fray your wire up a little bit, slide that on there, and as you twist that back on there, that's where your wire makes contact, and then that's where everything goes through. That's just the way I did my VP44 tap. Now, you do not have to tap your VP44 with an edge comp box. The only time that tap is actually used is on like 4x4, 5x4, 5x5, 4x5. It's any of your top marks. That's the only time that your comp box utilizes that the VP44 tap. So if you're not planning on going up in the higher settings, then you don't need to worry about tapping your VP44 and voiding a warranty if you have any warranty on it. A lot of the companies will void the warranty if your VP44 is tapped. Now mine has been rebuilt by AFI. This is a California company, and it was rebuilt before it come to Ohio, so I don't know for certain when it was rebuilt, but I'm going to assume, like that right there, that's my new hairpiece. I'm going to assume that it was out of warranty already, so I'm just not going to worry about it. So I have all of that out of the way. This is my boost sending unit right here, not the sending unit, but that's where my boost comes out of. I'm going to take this out, put a regular bolt in there, and then I'm going to run my boost gauge out of the back of one of my ports on my intake horn. So just gonna change that up and move that while I'm at it. Just wanted to kind of catch you up where I'm at. Now, as far as taking the valve cover off, everything as far as these trucks is very, very nice. Most of everything is the same size. Now, granted, I have the aftermarket boots, boost tube boots on my truck, so that band there is a 10mm instead of the stock 11mm. All this stuff through here, these bolts are 10mm, your valve cover bolts are 10mm, your throttle position sensor, those are a 13mm, so you don't really need much to take those off. Now on my intake horn, mine are a 6mm socket head, so I can't remember exactly for certain what the factory ones are. I know I think they're actually a hex head, and they're probably, if I had to guess, they're probably a 10mm. So right now, going to go ahead and take my valve cover off, and then go through and start taking my fuel lines off. All these hold downs have to come off, because you don't really want to take these blue isolators apart, because everything is set from the factory, unless you're planning on taking it apart, having your lines powder coated, what have you. I may have to run to the parts store and grab a new gasket, because I noticed this one ripped right there, so I'm gonna have to have a new gasket. I would actually like to take some stuff off and paint this side. I'm probably just going to clean it up in the truck, throw some paint on it here, tape that off obviously, and because everything over here looks pretty good as far as, you know, everything painted up. I just couldn't get to this side because everything was in the way. So while I have everything apart, and I think I'm going to go ahead and take and paint the this side up just a little bit, make it look just a little bit better. All right, with all your fuel lines out of the way, now you can start taking your delivery tubes out. I did try that nut. It does not go in there far enough. So just with the flat blade screwdriver, ever so slightly, just pull those out, just like so. And then the new injectors do come with new O-rings. Now with your delivery tubes out to your injector, you can take your injector hold down caps off. Now some people, they will pull your exhaust rocker arm off. I'm not going to. These are torqued to 89 inch-pounds. You can see how it would be easier to take this exhaust rocker arm off, but the back of this cap is slotted, so if you just take this one out, you can just take and move them right out of the way. So that's what I'm going to do, but you do have the option. You can take your exhaust rocker arm off if you want to, but it's not necessary. Alright, with all the caps out of the way, you can thread a bolt in there. One of your valve cover bolts will work. This is one of my old intake horn bolts. I'm just going to use that and pull the injectors out. Basically all there is to it. Alright, we're going to do a little comparison right here. This is the old injector out of the cylinder number 1 I just pulled out, and this is my new injector. You can see, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, if at all. The naked eye, you can barely see the fuel delivery holes. On this old injector, they are quite a bit bigger. So I will say that these are probably a 2 or maybe 250 horse injector, but irregardless, I'm going to send them in, have them checked out, and give them a clean bill of health. And like I said, I have a plan for them. I want to make sure all of them are good before I tell you what that plan is, and then we'll go from there. So right now, need to get the new injectors in, and then when you're pulling these out, make sure all your new crush or all your old crush washers, the copper O-rings, they come out. Basically, you can either look down inside there, but when you get back to cylinder 5 and 6, it's hard to see down inside the hole. So just look at your injector that you pull out. Make sure that you have the O-rings on there, and go from there. And if you need to pull it out, you can grab, obviously you can't use a magnet, but you can take like a screwdriver with a dab of grease on it or something like that. Or maybe you can stick a screwdriver down in there and pull it out that way. Whatever it takes just to pull that copper O-ring up and out of there. So when I take my stuff apart, you can see I have paper towel laid out here on a little table. I got paper towel, I marked everything 1 through 6. And then I had everything laid out because everything's kind of matched to the engine. Here's all my injectors, they're all cleaned up. The only one, number 6, had quite a bit of carbon on it on the ends. I don't really know why. I did take a mirror and put it in a pair of needle nose vice grips and then a light and look down inside that number 6 injector hole, and it seemed to be fine down in there. Now another thing you can do to make, you can see all of my injectors have the copper washers on them, and then you can also do this, what I've done right here with a light, and look back in there and make sure that you do have all of your copper washers out of there. There's just not a whole lot of room for cylinder 6 to get back there and check it. So one of the next upgrades I have is really going to be kind of tedious to get back there. That just maybe will give you a little bit of hint of what that possibly might be. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, so right now, just go through, put my injectors back in. Now when you put these in, you do want to grab some, see how that just fell off of there? You do want to grab some, maybe some Vaseline, just a little bit, and put on there to hold that O-ring or that copper washer in place. But when you put these in, these orient one way, and those will sit right on top of your injector hold down. They'll only go in there one way. So you need to make sure these tubes, or these openings right here, are faced towards the outside of the head to accept your fuel delivery tubes. So those need to go in just like that. And you can see this little notch right there on that side where my thumb's at. Just make sure that notch is facing you at just a little bit of a degree to be able to put your fuel delivery tubes in there. So, and then also they'll be, they'll only go in one way because they have this little notch in there. You got just a little bit of Vaseline on the copper washer. Put just a little bit of oil on your O-ring. Thread your bolt back in just a little bit. Get your injector oriented right. Put it right down in place. You can grab a hold of your exhaust. That's another nice thing about having your rocker arm on there, and use that in your palm of your hand and snap it right in place. To line these up, your bolt is still back there for your injector cap. Just take and give it just a little bit of twist. Make sure that's all in line and you should be good. Now your fuel delivery tube, it's the same way. Just a little bit of oil on the O-ring. Slide it in the hole. And you want to make sure and hear that positive snap on that also. Just like that. That's basically all there is to it. After you're done getting all your caps on, and like I said, those are 89 inch-pounds. I just made them tight comparatively to what I took them off, going by feel, because I don't have a 3/8 or inch-pound torque wrench. And 89 inch-pounds, I think if you do the math, it equivalents to like 7 foot-pounds. So even my 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch torque wrench, it only goes to 10, so I can't even really use it. So actually, and it really sucks because our Sears just closed. So I've actually been gone for just a little bit. I went and got some groceries. I had some lunch, and then kind of went around to a couple different places to try and find a 3/4 inch line wrench. I could not find one. A while back I had taken my 3/4 inch wrench and actually turned it into a little bit of, it's not a line wrench, but it's for tight quarters to tighten up the fuel lines. They're on top there by the head, and then also down at the VP44. So I was actually looking for a 3/4 inch line wrench. The biggest one I could find was 11/16. So, or even a crow's foot. Nobody even had crow's foot. They had great big packages of them, but they didn't sell them individually. So, and I didn't feel like running clear across town to Harbor Freight. On some things, I'll go to Harbor Freight and I'll purchase, but for the most part, I do like to buy quality tools. Just because I'm going to use them and have them for a while. Now we can turn our attention, like I said, get our fuel lines back in. I did take a Scotch-Brite and clean up all the ends before I put them back in. So we'll start and we'll put our back line in first, or our back line set in first, and then we'll put our front line set in, just like basically reverse order on how we took them out. And I did go and get a new grid heater gasket. Actually, the gasket set came with the plenum cover and both top and bottom gaskets for intake and grid heater. So I was pleasantly surprised with that on what it all came with, and I think it was like 10 bucks. So that's pretty cheap. All right, with everything pretty much put back together, one thing you do want to make sure of, I screwed up. I put my intake horn on first before I put my throttle position sensor back in place. So I did have to remove this boot and run it back through and get this put in place. Remember to plug your wires in on the bottom of your throttle position sensor. I have all my lines tight except for 1, 3, and 4. Those are the lines you need to have loose to bleed your system. I'm gonna go grab my wife and get her to turn the engine over while I make sure it has fuel and see if we can't get this thing running. What I do is put my valve cover on yet, and that way it allows me just to have just a little more room to, if I can spit that out, a little bit more room to tighten up the 1, 3, and 4 lines once I see fuel coming out of them. Okay, go ahead. Well, she couldn't shut it off because she didn't know how. What I failed to mention to her is when she was shutting it off, I had the emergency brake set, and you know, like I've said in the past, I have my remote start on there. And to set the remote start, you apply the brake, push in an emergency brake, let off, turn the key off. Well, when you do that, it sets the remote start for next time you get in the vehicle because it knows it's in neutral. So she turned it off, she was doing all kinds of things, but she didn't know to press the brake. So anyway, no worries. It primed up very, very fast and took right off. I was pleasantly surprised on how fast it did prime up. We're gonna drive it here in just a little bit, and I'll get back with you tomorrow, let you know how they perform, because now it is later on in the day, got to get supper ready. I don't really have time to go for an extensive test drive and let you know how these are performing. So on my way to work tomorrow, we'll see how they do, play with the comp box a little bit the next few weeks as far as fuel mileage. The injectors, like I said, everything primed up and took off very, very good. So tickled to death with that. If you're going to do this project, make sure at least you have a half a day. I do want to say thank you to Stealth Diesel for sending out the injectors. Thank you very much. Hit their website in the description below. Use the coupon code ChadMeyer73, and that's good on all parts, and that'll get you 5% off your total purchase. So for right now, guys, I appreciate you watching. Hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you guys later on. Bye-bye.